This potato field is at the centre of a mystery. Here, over the last 15 years, detectorist Dave Cummings and friends have unearthed Anglo-Saxon finds worth £100,000. Archaeologists have never seen a collection like it, and it's set the experts squabbling. What has Dave discovered? Could his knowledge hold the key to what lies beneath the field? Treasure. It's all around us.
Look at that.
Every day, new finds are bringing our history to life.
I think we've got a find over here.
I'm Miranda Krestovnikoff. Join me in this hidden world, where passions run high, where secrets are kept, and where serious money can be made. The world of hidden treasure. I'm on my way to meet Dave Cummings at his local museum, where the most precious finds from the field are on display. With the landowner's permission, we're going to organise a dig to try and uncover the secrets of the field.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Miranda.
Hi there. Are your finds in here?
Yes, they are.
Dave is a model detectorist. For 15 years, he's been reporting his finds to local archaeologists.
Wow, Dave, are these your finds?
They are indeed.
I can't believe so much gold.
Some beautiful stuff there, isn't there?
Beautiful. You've got a ring,
I
a
know.
pendant, and gold coins.
I know, it's incredible.
Loads of bits and
isn't it?
pieces. And is this everything?
No, this is only a fraction, actually, of what
You've
we've
got
found
more than we've
altogether.
got here.
Yes, yes.
Dave and his friends have found more than 2,000 Anglo-Saxon artefacts on our mysterious field, mostly from the 6th and 7th centuries. Most are made from bronze and many of them are unfinished. The most spectacular, though, is the gold, including this extraordinary ring. These finds were unearthed before the new Treasure Act came in, so Dave will not receive a reward for his discoveries. But for Dave, money is not the motivation. He wants to know what's going on at his site. Why have they found so many rare gold and silver coins?
So what do you think's going on site? I mean, we're going to organise a dig on the site. What would you hope to find?
Well, I'm hoping to find evidence of a mint.
Right, why do you say that?
But the sheer volume of coins that we've come across, and many of them appear to be unfinished.
Right, OK. Well, first things first, I think we should take these down to the British Museum and see what they think of them there.
I think that's a good idea.
So Dave was looking for a mint or other evidence for coin making. I hoped British Museum Anglo-Saxon expert Leslie Webster could give us some other clues about what was happening on site.
Leslie, what do you make of all these wonderful objects?
Well, I mean, it is an astonishing collection to see so many gold pieces and so many coins. They look very much the kind of personal equipment you'd get buried with people in high-status graves in a cemetery.
So what about the other bits and pieces other than the gold?
Well, this is really a revelation. I mean, all this material, and this is only a fraction of it, that Dave's picked up since these early gold finds. We've got this interesting group of 6th century material. These are wrist clasps. You'd have worn them on the sleeves of a garment. And what's extremely interesting and what's fascinating me is that what we've now got, that Dave's salvaged so brilliantly, is huge amount of evidence for metalworking. We've got these slags here, which are sort of byproducts of half-melted stuff. We've got half-completed, unfinished objects here, where they've come out of the mould, but they haven't been
left on it.
Yeah, haven't been filed down. And then we've got all this chopped-up metalwork ready for the melting pot.
Right. So we seem to have a bit of a mishmash going on here. We've got sort of beautiful items that might have come from a cemetery. We've got everyday bits and pieces clothing. We've got very high status items, and then we've got evidence of metalwork and production going on. So it seems like there could be quite a number of things going on the site.
Well, absolutely. I mean, but what you do need to bear in mind is that metalwork production was usually under the control of quite a wealthy person, a person of some standing and status in this period. So although this might look to the uninitiated as the sort of boring bits of stuff, they tell a very important story. And it's worth remembering that the bronze objects can tell you as much as the very grand ones about how this site was used.
Metalworking, clothes accessories, maybe a cemetery, even a mint. Dave's site sounded so exciting, it was definitely time to get our investigation underway. Sites like Dave's have been looted in the past, so to keep the location of the site secret, we've had a model made. These symbols represent the finds Dave has made on his field. Coins, metalwork, and of course, the gold. Archaeologists John Newman and Helen Geek would lead our investigation on site. John is a dig specialist, but he's also been recording Dave's finds for over 20 years. Helen has been working with detectorists for 7 years and is an expert on Anglo-Saxon cemeteries. I went to meet them at a barn near Dave's site to see what they think is going on.
Now, this site's been really intriguing me. I have no idea what's going on. John, what do you think's been happening?
Well, I think we've got a settlement, a high-status settlement here, judging by the finds and the variety. We found gold coins, silver coins, lots of bronze objects, and also among some very classy gold objects.
So what are you hoping to find?
Well, above all else, we're looking for evidence for big buildings for the Anglo-Saxon period, big hall-type buildings, probably.
Right, do you agree with John on that one?
Well, actually, no, I don't. I think it's much more likely that these finds are coming from a cemetery. And that's partly because of these wonderful gold things that John is talking about. It's much more likely that I think that these would get into the ground in graves. But then there's also something else, which is that I think we found very little pottery so far on this field. If you're living somewhere, then you've got to be cooking in and eating off something, and it's generally pottery. We need much more pottery if this is going to be a settlement. So what I'm looking for is evidence of graves.
So the lines were drawn. John was on the hunt for buildings, Helen was looking for a cemetery, and Dave was hoping to find a mint. The first thing to do was to get a geophysics survey underway. The machines measure tiny changes in the Earth's magnetic field to produce an underground map. From his detecting, Dave has his own theory about where some buildings might be and the possible location of his mint. The question was whether the survey would support him. When he's not out detecting, Dave runs a tropical fish shop. I went there to meet up with John and Helen to hear what the geophysics survey had uncovered.
Right, you're poring over the geophys results. What's come up so far?
Oh, it's been really interesting. We've got some really good results, I think. We've got what's called Area B here. They've got what looks like ditches and pits, which could be from a settlement.
Where does that relate to on the model?
That's sort of somewhere in this area, just down here,
okay,
bottom of the slope.
Right.
And then across to here, where there's an area with increased readings, which could be to do with some sort of industrial activity, metalworking in this sort of area.
Okay. So there's a lot of information there that supports your settlement theory.
I think so.
What about the cemetery theory now?
Well, graves don't show up terribly well on geophysics,
right,
but what I am interested in is this area just here, where there's lots of these really small little yellow spots, and they indicate what are known as ferrous spikes, lumps of iron, possibly, in the soil, and the best place to find lumps of iron in the soil is in an Anglo-Saxon grave.
And Dave, what do you think? Where do you think your mint's going to be?
Well, the area of my mint, I'm not basing on the geophysics, I'm actually basing on the amount of finds that have come up over the 15-year period, and I think that the mint area is up here on your model,
right,
but not here on the geophysical survey.
So John thought we should start the hunt for a settlement by digging trenches at the bottom of the field. But Helen thought we could find a cemetery here. And Dave thought the best place to... Dave didn't waste any time and got detecting straight away, hoping to find more Anglo-Saxon finds, even treasure. Unfortunately, he found nothing, and John found no evidence for buildings either.
In this trench, we've got a lot of bands of chalk and gravel running all the way down. Probably what the geophysical survey showed up is these different geological bands rather than archaeological features. So not a vast amount showing up, but we've got a long way to go.
Not a good start. But John wasn't worried he hadn't found a building yet. He'd got other evidence for a settlement up his sleeve. Overlooking Dave's site is a quarry where a couple of years ago John discovered a very unusual grave. It contained the poorly preserved skeleton of an Anglo-Saxon woman. But what John found most intriguing was that she was buried in a bed. One of only a dozen such burials in Britain, bed burials are usually for very important women. John believed that such a rich grave so close to Dave's site was further evidence that it was once a wealthy settlement. Perhaps the woman was once even the lady of the manor. Richard Darragh and Jackie Watson have been trying to piece together her bed. The wooden frame has rotted away, and all that remains of it are over 100 pieces of iron. After months of painstaking work, they have finally completed this gigantic jigsaw.
Now, Richard, my first question is, how on earth do you know that this is a bed and not a coffin made of iron?
Right. There's one very simple thing that tells us it's a bed. It's this thing. It's a headboard stay, and it runs from a sideboard of the bed there up to the headboard at that end. And that stirrup of metal fits onto a plank on edge there, and it runs up to the headboard, which is back at an angle like that. And as an additional thing on this bed, we've got this beautiful double circle of iron, and that's unique to this bed. But it's the headboard stays that tell us they're beds.
The bed would have looked like this. 4 planks making a box shape with a mattress on top, and a headboard held up by 2 stays and decorated with circles of iron. Nobody has ever attempted to accurately reconstruct a bed like this. So we've asked Richard to see if he can do it and learn more about Anglo-Saxon workmanship. Richard's first job was to split a huge trunk into more manageable planks. To make his reconstruction authentic, Richard used replicas of Anglo-Saxon tools. After days of work, the bed was finally beginning to take shape. John was convinced that the bed burial put his settlement theory in pole position, but Helen was still hoping to find a cemetery. To find out if she was right, we'd now opened up a 40-metre trench exactly where she'd wanted.
So the geophysics said we should dig a trench here. We've dug a trench. Have we got anything?
Well, it was always the best candidate for the cemetery, but it was always a little bit hopeful. And in fact, all we've got is one nail, which we think is just a bit of litter from the footpath at the top of the hill.
OK, so no evidence for a cemetery at all?
No, nothing from the cemetery.
Right, so, I mean, is it likely we might find a cemetery in the field, though?
Well, we've still got all the rest of the field to look at, and it's a big field, but it's a bit, at the moment, like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Things weren't looking good. We'd opened up trenches exactly where John and Helen wanted, but found nothing even vaguely Anglo-Saxon. To make matters worse, it had started to rain. The archaeologists had to stop, but John wanted more
Horrible weather. How's it going so far?
The weather has mucked things up a little bit for us.
Have you found anything significant in the trenches yet?
A few sparse features.
So we're digging in the wrong place, do you reckon?
Yes, we really are. We are digging in the wrong place.
Marvellous. So where ought we to be digging?
Well, we should really be digging between these 2 trenches here.
Okay,
because this is the main area.
Is that where you made your initial finds?
Yes, that's where all the finds really come from.
Right, and you think that's where the mint might be?
Yes, I do indeed.
I was concerned we were on a wild goose chase, but Dave was sticking to his guns. He was still convinced we could find a mint. Why else would he have found so many coins, including some very rare gold ones, known as thrimsers? I took Dave to see British Museum coin expert Anna Gannon to see if she agreed that there could be a mint on the site.
Anna, what can you tell us about Dave's coins?
They're a fantastic collection, and they're a very, very rare type to find. These are the so-called pale gold thrimsers, the shillings, and they're very, very few found. And to find 12 altogether, it's amazing.
So how many of these exist?
Well, from the region, that's about it. There are other thrimsers in England, but from the region, this is the largest and most important group.
Dave thinks that there might have been a mint on the site. Is that a possibility?
Well, it certainly sounds an exciting possibility to find such a concentration of coins, such rare coins, all the same at the site, plus all the other things that we know about, the metalwork and things. And of course, the people who would have made these coins at the time were not professionals. These were first experiments. They were jewelers, basically. So it is quite likely that you might find something there. I wouldn't put my hand on the fire yet and say definitely, 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 but certainly something.
saw, we've dug 5 trenches so far. We haven't found a single thing. Are you feeling optimistic still?
I am feeling optimistic, really.
Yeah?
Yes. And after all, don't forget, my reputation's on the line here.
I was going to say, it's because of you that we're digging all these trenches, isn't it?
Well, it is, really. I mean, and we're digging them because of all the Anglo-Saxon finds that we've had off the field. Some marvellous finds indeed, over this period of 15 years.
So if we don't find anything, it's
if we don't find anything, I'm afraid it's egg on my face.
Well, I'll remain optimistic if you do.
I was a bit frustrated by our lack of progress and needed something to cheer me up. So Dave invited me along to his club in Ipswich to see some of their recent discoveries. So I'm going to grab a drink and have a nose around.
So you're the chairman at the club here?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And how long have you been chairman?
Oh, I've been chairman now for umpteen years. They can't get rid of me, you see. No one else will do the job, so I'm stuck with it, really.
You've got a really, really wide variety of people at the club. I mean, is anybody allowed to join?
Yes, more or less anyone responsible.
Right, so no shady characters here
No
tonight?
shady characters apart from myself.
Our archaeologists are also regulars at the club. Helen's here tonight on behalf of the Portable Antiquities Scheme. She's identifying finds and recording where they were found to enter into their national database for future study. Some finds may be classed as treasure.
So have we got any treasure here tonight?
We have got some treasure, yes. These 3 silver Roman coins found together of much the same date, they are the only treasure finds on the table tonight.
So what exactly is classed as treasure?
Exactly, it's an object made of gold or silver, at least 10%, and 300 or more years old. If it's a coin, it has to be a hoard, so that's a gold or silver coin, 2 or more. If it's a bronze coin, they have to be 10 or more. Plus, recently we've had the addition of prehistoric base metal hoards. So something like this, which is a Bronze Age axe. If you had a group of them, then that would be classed as a hoard, and that would be treasure as well.
There seems to be a wealth of artefacts here. Is this quite usual?
Yes, absolutely. There's an enormous amount, and it doesn't stop coming up. The amount of stuff out there in the past is just extraordinary. You would not believe how much stuff there is.
The following day, I headed back to site, hoping that we might actually find some stuff ourselves.
We've now opened up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trenches, and finally we've got some action. Dave, what have you got there?
Well, look at this, this amazing find that's just come out of the ground.
Beautiful. What is it? I have no idea.
It appears to be an Anglo-Saxon necklet, and it's made of copper alloy.
Excellent.
And look at this beautiful little terminals on here. Look, there's a little Saxon knot terminal there and a little hook in there, look, to greet it.
Great. Excellent. Somebody had a very small neck though, didn't they?
They certainly did. Might have been for a child, you see, we just don't know.
It's beautiful. You must be really pleased with that.
I'm absolutely delighted with that find. It is really a fantastic thing to find.
Marvellous. OK, well, I'll hand it back to you. Keep going. That's really great.
Thank you very much indeed.
Dave's necklace had come from a trench at the top right of the field, and it wasn't long before it gave us another wonderful discovery.
Hi guys, what do you got? That's beautiful.
It's an antler comb.
Who found that then?
Well, I got a signal on the metal detector, and then Faye very, very carefully excavated it.
Helen, tell me a bit about it.
Well, it's made out of antler from a red deer or something like that, and it's made in bits. You clamp the bits together with iron rivets, which is the signal that Dave found, and then you cut teeth. So it's a comb used for hair or possibly for something like knit removal.
Lovely, excellent. So we have Anglo-Saxon knits here. How do you feel, Dave, about that?
Well, I'm absolutely delighted, really. I've never actually seen one in reality, only seen them in books, and for me, really, this has got to be the jewel in the crown so far this week.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Little did Dave know, but on the other side of the field, the real jewel of the site was being unearthed. John had opened up a trench at the top of the field, exactly where Dave wanted to start digging in the first place.
So this seems to be where all the action's happening. What sort of things are we uncovering?
Well, what we've got here is some evidence for a timber building. Here we've got these dark patches here where posts probably were in the ground. That's the bottom of the post holes. You've got to remember we've lost maybe 2 or 3 feet from above.
OK.
Maybe another one behind there. And then from around where Claire is, a trench, probably a foundation trench for a timber building. It's a very typical 7th century building style for really big, substantial buildings.
Now, are we talking Anglo-Saxon here?
I think so, yes.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So, and it sounds like quite a big structure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I look at it, we don't know if we've got length or the width yet. We'll have to expand the trench slightly to find out, but it is the sort of building style you get from the 7th century onwards.
Brilliant. So that's really good news.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Settlement theory. Yep, we're there.
It was a great discovery for John, but what would Helen make of it?
Now, the foundations they found behind us seem pretty convincing evidence of the fact that there was a settlement here. Now, where does this leave your cemetery theory, then?
Well, it's definitely a building. It seems like it's 7th century. That's great. But there's still no pottery. We've hardly found any. And so that's a real problem for it being a domestic settlement. You've got to have pottery for cooking and eating. Where is it?
While Helen and John continue to fight their corners, our bed reconstruction was coming on nicely. Bed up to Richard, who needed a hand with the finishing touches.
Richard.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
This is looking fantastic. Really good. You've been busy.
Yeah. You've got all the metalwork.
I've got all the metalwork. All you ever need. So, where do you want to start? My dad would be really proud of me. The bed moved. No comment. Here we go. Yes. Finishing touches. Fantastic. It's a bed.
Right, yes.
It's got a mattress. Yep. It's a bed. Now, just looking at it now, it was sort of coming alive, really. I remember the first time that I saw these headboard stays and actually sort of imagining how they were going to hold up the headboard and how all this was going to look. And it looks so impressive. It's really good. You must be so pleased.
Yes, I am. Yes, it's really come together.
Yeah.
And it looks spectacular, doesn't it? And it
really,
shows
really
how
good.
many people are involved in something like this as well.
Yeah. So what exactly have you learnt by making this bed?
Well, when you do a reconstruction, instead of just doing a drawing on paper, you actually have to put the things together. And you've got to make it all work. And so you have to think about the technology that they were using.
But does it tell you anything about the society that these people were living in at the time?
Well, clearly someone who makes this kind of metalwork has to be doing it a lot of the time. This is specialist work. And so that you have a society where people are being specialist smiths and working all the time making metalwork.
And what about the woman who was buried in this bed? Can we tell any more about her?
Yes, I think we can, in that what you've got here is a lot of metalwork used on a bed. Iron is quite a valuable material, and to have this quality of work on a bed means the person must have been important, and the bed was then buried with them when they died.
Fantastic. Well, I think you've done an absolutely smashing job on this. I have to say, it's very tempting with a bed sitting here. There's one thing I have to do. I hope you excuse me here, but I got to lie in it. Oh, it's actually really comfortable, isn't it? Yeah. God, OK, see you later.
It was incredible to think how much Richard had achieved. Working from only fragments of iron, he had worked out what the bed would have looked like and how to piece it all together. It really was a bed fit for a lady. Back on site, John had enlarged the trench at the top of the field where he'd begun to uncover a building. Would this turn out to be Our Lady's home?
John, this looks mighty impressive.
Oh,
is this
it is.
the building that you were hoping for?
Oh, yeah, very much so, yeah. This is it.
Talk me through. What
Right.
are all the bits?
What have we got? We've got, coming from here, we've got a corner, that dark stain in the soil,
Yep.
coming through here, and then it comes around and runs along the side here, running right up.
So this is the wall. This is the outer wall, yeah.
This is the outer wall, yeah, foundation trench. Here's a section we took out yesterday,
on the corner,
Right.
and then it continues round.
Keeps going.
And here, you see there's a couple of marks on each side.
Is that where it finishes?
It finishes at that point, just here, because there's a post hole there for a post.
Right.
Probably one here, and a gap in the trench, so we seem to have an entrance.
Oh gosh, so it's not that big, but it goes
That
there's
big.
more
That
over
again,
there.
that's only half of it.
Right. And so all that hard work's really paid off, because things weren't looking very promising earlier, but now we've got this enormous trench with this huge building in
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh, it has paid off. Yeah. I mean, this is what we were hoping for, and we've really struck gold, so to speak, archaeologically, in finding the classic hall-type building where we really wanted it, where the metalwork is.
What we'd found was truly remarkable. The foundations were evidence for a very large hall. It was 11 metres by 7 metres wide and over 6 metres tall, topped with a thatch roof. Buildings like this are extremely rare and were almost certainly built for very high-status people, maybe even royalty.
John, how significant is the building? I mean, could a king have lived there?
It could be that part. We're at the top end of society. We're in the extended royal family, top end of aristocracy in East Anglia at the time. So it could be, yes.
Right. Now, Helen, over to you. I mean, this surely knocks your cemetery theory on the head a bit, doesn't it?
Well, I am going to have to eat my hat, aren't I? But we haven't opened up the whole field, and I still think somewhere out in that field there is a cemetery.
And Dave, I mean, you said right from the beginning that we would find something significant in that particular area. We dug all over the field, and still, actually, our high-status building was found in the area that you said was going to be.
That's because all the gold and silver coins and a lot of the gold artefacts were found in that area, you see.
Yeah, I know, so you were right all along.
That's right,
Should have listened to you earlier, shouldn't we, really?
Yes.
So John had found his building. Helen hadn't found her cemetery, and Dave hadn't found his mint, but he was right about where to dig. Finally, we all met up at Ipswich Museum to see the bed on display. Could it really be linked with the building we found?
Well, here we go.
Cool, look at this lot.
This is it. Tell me what you think.
That's absolutely incredible,
It's
isn't
all right, isn't it? John, do you reckon that the woman and this bed that she was buried on could have once lived in that building?
Oh yeah, it's possible. It's quite. I mean, it's a nice story, and it's quite a distinct possibility.
Brilliant. It's good news. Do you agree with that?
Well, it's a possibility, yes. The bed's the right date for the building, and it's a very high-status object, and that building is certainly high status.
And Dave, I mean, you're the reason we're all here in the first place, really. I've got a little surprise for you. Hidden under here. This is a drawing of the building that we found, and that's
incredible.
for you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you.
Isn't that wonderful on there? That's wonderful to see it like that.
It had been a brilliant investigation. Dave's 15 years of patient detecting had paid off. Together with the archaeologists, we had discovered a remarkable building and had the first glimpses of one of the most important Anglo-Saxon sites in England.